Let me get the link and give it to them, and then I can go pray and come back. Give me the YouTube link.
It's live.
It should be like.
Where's the link?
Link is in YouTube.
Yeah, I'm sending it.
If you could go back, maybe.
How about we pray all together, or one of us stays here?
We can go pray right now because it's live.
But they're gonna start.
Can you see if you can hear?
Or I can stay. We can stay.
One of you stays to protect the spot. How about me and you share pray? No, not me and you share. Me and you pray. And me stage, and then we'll share after.
But audio हमारे एखान से
ঠিক আছে ইটস ফাইন আসবে মাত্র শুনছি বলছি আমার বলছে যে এটা মাত্র আসছে হ্যাঁ আসছে
এখান থেকে আসছে তো এখানে কথা বলতে পারবো না
See, Waleed, I mean, this was actually a phone. They asked me for 6 to reset that. Right out.
Hey guys, we'll get started in about 3 minutes, okay? Yes.
Perfect.
On WhatsApp?
Oh, what's that? Like whatever thing
Video?
it's being
I'll do something. I can just send it over there, but
but it's too short.
no, it's long.
You wanna move it?
No, I think this is very long.
Can you show more light? Externally, yes, but not from the camera.
So, assalamu alaikum everybody. Hello, welcome to everybody who is in the room joining us. And I think we are also doing this live on Facebook. So, assalamu alaikum and hello to everybody who is joining us online. Just briefly, I want to just set some community rules for the group in our engagement for this conversation. And so, as I suppose most of you know, all 5 of us sitting on this panel have been to Gaza. Some of us have been to Gaza multiple times. And so our main goal in this conversation is to give you the opportunity to attempt to see what we have seen there. This entire message is a message of love, and it's a message of humanity. And I know that there's a lot of kafiyas and Palestinian flags here, and I think that's a beautiful thing. But I think we all need to remember that this message is coming from a place of love and unity. And so anything that somebody would do to disturb that, we want to make sure that there's no space for that here. This is a message of love, okay? So I'll take the time to introduce myself, and then we'll all introduce ourselves as well. I will just start off. My name is Mohammed Madah. I'm a trauma surgeon. I'm a trauma surgeon. I'm also a critical care intensivist. I have had the privilege to go to Gaza in March and work with a lot of the staff there. And I currently work in Charleston, South Carolina, and I direct the global surgery program there. So, pass off to the side here.
Hi everyone, my name is Ashar Alzul. I'm a pulmonologist, lung doctor, and an ICU doctor. I went to the mission with the Jordanian American Physicians and Palestinian American Medical Association to Gaza on March 25th until April 9th.
Hello everyone, Assalamu alaikum. My name is Rana Mahmoud. I'm a registered nurse at the emergency room, and I also do critical care, wound care. I've been to Gaza twice in January and March, and I'm from the Tampa Bay area.
Assalamu alaikum, my name is Wali Said Ahmed. I'm an anesthesiologist practicing in Fort Lauderdale. I was fortunate to be with the same group that went to Gaza and just returned back in April.
Hello everyone, my name is Amanda Kanaya. I'm a therapist and licensed practical nurse for 13 years. I'm from Miami, live in New York. And I was honored to be on the medical mission trip that just returned in April with Pam.
So just very quickly, I wanted to tell everybody that the accounts that you will hear are all our own personal stories. They're all things that we have seen with our own eyes. All of the images that you are seeing in this presentation are images that we have shot with our own personal cell phones. None of these views represent any organization. These are just our stories. These are our accounts. I think I don't want to be so pompous as to speak for everybody on the panel, but I think a lot of people that I spoke with there said the best thing you can do is just tell our story. So we understand that we have a platform, and we want to use this platform not to amplify our voices, but to amplify the voices of those who are not here before you. And so none of these counts are the statement, or none of this is representative of any of the organizations that we went with. We went with the Palestinian American Medical Association, the Syrian American Medical Society, and then the Jordanian American Physicians Association. These are just our opinions. So I'll go back to this first slide, because I think there is some commentary that needs to be shared. I'll pass it off.
Yeah, so while we were preparing the slides, we were asking everyone to share the pictures that they got on their phones. And this particular picture, which was taken by Rana, kind of caught my attention. What exactly is this kid, this little child, trying to tell the photo taker? He was looking at her with his eyes full with determination, full with doubts, full with fear, full with uncertainty. He's asking all of us to act on his behalf. He's asking all of us to stand up and do something for him, to stop this madness. I'll let Rana tell part of her story. Who exactly is this kid?
This little kid, most Gazan kids, when we would walk around, they will come to us and they will ask us for candy or money. This child in particular, when I walked up to him and I asked him to smile for the photo, he refused to smile. He was just completely speechless. He had a lot to tell. He had a story to tell, and I asked him to speak. I asked his name. He was completely speechless. He was nonverbal. Then I asked him that, for his permission to take a photo, and he just stood there. And I took a picture of him. But what I'm trying to say here is most children in Gaza, they suffer. They lost their homes, they lost parents, they lost their schools, they have no activities that they could do. And this kid, as you can see, he has a ripped up shirt, probably homeless, probably orphanage, we don't know. But he's just speechless, and he is asking us to tell his story. He's asking us to deliver the message to you guys, and to please look at his eyes, and that's all I have to say.
So this is us. I think we'll go through the presentation, and then I think most of us probably be happy to answer questions. but we wanted to start off by just describing the journey to Gaza. And I think that this is not the voice of the people, but this is our own voice. This is how did we get there? But I think that's important because we become part of the story. And so a lot of us, I mean, I can speak for myself, but you know, we got to Cairo, and then we went to the World Health Organization regional headquarters there in Cairo to meet with a lot of the people there. And it's very interesting. You'll see some pictures, but you get there to Cairo and you meet all of the team, and these are people from all over the world, people from Jordan, the UK, you know, people from all over Europe and the United States. And I didn't know any of these people. Like my co-panelists, I didn't know any of these people before. But immediately we became, oh sorry, keep that. Immediately we became instant brothers and sisters, because the same story that I told, all of my teammates told. They all talked about how they said goodbye to their children, how they, you know, how did they explain to a, you know, a 4-year-old how that they're leaving to go into a war zone. And one of my teammates said what hit him the most was when his 4-year-old came up to him and said, "Who's going to take care of me?" And all of us had similar stories, even though we didn't know each other. We immediately connected with that. We became brothers and sisters in this mission. And so we stayed in Cairo for a day or two, and then we headed to the border. And this is a video that I don't think you're going to be able to see the video. I'll try to play it again, but I don't think it's going to work. But basically, it just shows all the bags that we attempted to bring. Yeah, it's not working. Sorry. And I will say, thankfully, that each mission brought, like my mission, I think brought 60 bags, and it was like twice as many as the mission before me, and then the next mission brought twice as much, and the next mission brought twice as much. So we're very amazed by the community support. You all here in this room, this is not just us, this is this entire community, and communities all over the United States who have come together to stand up for humanity. The next slide here. Sorry, I'm not a Mac user. There we go.
Yeah, so the reason why everyone decided to bring bags, like Rana brought 30 bags, me and my friend brought 16 bags, and they were like gathered by the community, packed with medications, packed with food, packed with whatever we were able to get that we thought will help the folks inside. The reason why we wanted to do that, because we knew that the truck aids were not being allowed in for the most part. En route, when we were driving, so we arrived in Cairo. We joined like a 30-van convoy that was with the WHO and UN, and you know, during that trip, our feelings were mixtures of anxiety and prayers, and we were hoping that we will make it through. You know, as a matter of fact, one of our colleagues was blocked, was not allowed in across the border, and one of our colleagues brought some surgical equipment with him. They were confiscated at the border. So everyone of us was praying that every single piece of aid that I brought with me will make it through to the next side of the border. En route, there was this very tall wall, probably 12 meter plus, that was extending all the way from, like, creating a buffer zone. So Gaza, and then there's the Gaza border, or the Rafah border, and then there's this buffer zone, and then there's this wall. So instead of us looking at the Mediterranean Sea, we were just looking at this wall that extended for several kilometers, just creating this isolation zone for the Gazans. And this video can show you the importance of the stuff that we brought with us. You can see as the truck was driving, we were like seeing loads, tons of aid trucks that were parked on the right and left side of the road for around 5 miles of those trucks. They were just waiting there. So you know, a lot of the time you send, you know, like hoping that these truck aids will make it through, but they were just facing this. And right at the border, I overheard a dispute, like a conversation
between the border person and the truck driver. He said that he's been parked there for 40 days, not being allowed there.
So, for those of you who have not had the privilege or pleasure of going to Palestine, going to Gaza, once you enter in Rafah, which, as everybody I'm sure in the room knows right now, you can no longer do this. But we enter just like you cross into any other country. You go through, they stamp your passport, and then you walk in. And it's interesting because I guess every team did this, but we didn't know that. So our team just saw this sign that says "I love Gaza," and we all just gravitated towards the sign. And we all took a picture, and then every subsequent team has taken a picture with this sign, and I don't know that it wasn't coordinated, it was just natural. But it was really beautiful to see everybody get together once you get there, and some of the people that I went with, it was their first time in Palestine. And then more recently we had this, I don't know if you guys have seen this video of the takeover of the port. So, again, this is just my opinion, I'm not speaking for anybody else on the panel, but I just didn't understand why. Like, why would you do that? It's not a dictator, like a statue of a dictator that you're taking down, or any sort of symbol of oppression. It's literally it's like, I love Raleigh, or I love Tampa. Like, why would you do that? That one got to me, especially because I stood in that spot. So, for those of you who are potentially not aware of the Gaza Strip, so Gaza is about 26 miles in this direction by about 5 or 6 miles in this direction. So an athlete could run that whole distance. Sorry, don't use max. But the north, so in our briefing during our time at the World Health Organization, they basically told us that we were not allowed to go anywhere north of this line. The World Health Organization was not putting teams anywhere north, despite the fact that the vast majority of the healthcare facilities were up north. So, specifically the biggest hospital in Palestine, which is Al-Shifa Hospital, is in the north, now all completely bombed. So everybody who was in this location had fled down to the south, and we were at the European Gaza Hospital, which was here, and it was designed for 250 patients when it was built. And at the time when I was there, it was taking care of 900 patients with 3,000 people who were not patients that were seeking refuge there.
This is how the European hospital looked before this genocide started. So you can see how clean the streets were, how beautiful the buildings were, although they were living under very limited resources. But Gazan people are very educated. Like, the level of education there is more than 90% of people are educated. So they were taking care of their whatever resources they had. They were trying to build nice hospitals, to train their personnel. You can see how the floors are shiny and nice. This was, just a couple of months before this genocide started.
Yeah, obviously, I'm sleeping over there. I'm trying to sleep because of how exhausted I was. And this is basically as Bashar likes to call it, the C-suite. Did you call it the C-suite or something?
The royal suite.
The royal suite on the right upper corner. And this basically was our area where we would sleep. And then the one on the left is the other area where we spent some time. Our team kind of split into two halves. One was guided by Rana to go, as she told us that there is like a bathroom, a private bathroom over there, and some beds and stuff like that. We believed what she said, so we went over there to this side, and it was sad, obviously, but it was a good place to sleep in anyway. We had our bathroom, which we were sharing. On the right, they were sharing the bathroom with the whole floor, which had about how many people? 40 or 50 occupants. And everybody was sharing the same bathroom, trying to alternate every once in a while, and whole line waiting for their turn to do what they have to do. So it was quite an experience, and that's how it was. I think this picture was during my wait in the Mabar of Rafah, as Rana again was always taking pictures of me while I was asleep. I'm not sure why she was doing that. So obviously here we were praying in the hallway. This kind of gives you a little idea of how crowded the area was, and how things overall, as far as amenities available to us.
And so I do want to emphasize one point, which is, so that picture up there is a picture that I took. That's my bag on the right, that's where I slept. So how many people in this room, raise your hand if you, to yourself today, said, I'm very thankful that I have a bathroom? You actually said that to yourself. Like, I'm very thankful that I have a bathroom. Like, I couldn't believe this, because we were in this place in Gaza, and we were sharing, as was stated, we were sharing a bathroom with about 40, 50 people, and we were the lucky ones. Like, people were jealous of us. The numbers on this put out by the World Health Organization is that there's currently one toilet for every 600 to 700 people, maybe even more now. And I even felt inconvenienced because I had to wait. So what is it like to just not be able to go to the bathroom? Situation that we were facing.
Now, just to draw a picture, so you guys saw the video, the short video of the European hospital before this started. I want you to pay attention to this video, what exactly we were dealing with. So this picture, I was walking with this radiologist to his office, and you can see all of these blankets and tents, people sleeping in the hallways. So the European hospital was not actually a hospital. It was more like a refugee camp. And when Muhammad went, maybe there were like few thousand. When we went there, the estimated number of refugees that were staying in the hospital, or in the hospital ground, or the parking lots outside, around 12,000 refugees were staying there. Behind, you can see there are people sleeping on these mattresses in the hallways. You see blanket after blanket after blanket. Behind each blanket is a family. We could hear their babies cry. We could hear their mothers breastfeeding their kids. We could smell whatever they were cooking there with what so little food that they had. We could, they were sleeping there. And the interesting thing, the Gaza women are so modest that they kept their hijab the whole time, even while they were there. So it was mind blowing. It took me like a week just to process this, just to understand what exactly is happening there. It felt like Judgment Day. When you are walking to the ICU, you are just seeing a kid wandering around, seeing injured amputee laying on the hallway on the side, and just keeps coming and coming back and forth.
I want to comment on that picture. As Dr. Bashar mentioned earlier, the European hospital, first of all, it's the last hospital it's the last standing trauma hospital in the Gaza Strip that is serving 2.4 million people right now. It's the only hospital that has enough resources to operate on. And that hospital, we will all call hospital, what we used to seeing here in the United States, it's not a hospital, it's a refugee camp. That red blanket there, that lower bottom picture, that's a woman and a 4-year-old child sleeping behind that blanket on the stairs. And that bathroom there in that picture, that's the bathroom I shared with 500 other people. And I was there for 14 days, 2 times this last, 4 months. And this is just me being there for 14 days, while other people have lived this for over 7 months. You don't have to be Muslim, you don't have to be Arab, you just have to be human, just to see these pictures and talk about them. Those children were on the border. The children you see, the slippers, we were leaving Gaza, and I met up with them, and I asked them, it was the 2 days before Eid, and I had the pleasure of speaking with them, and I just asked them, I said, what do you want? What do you want for Eid? And all this, I just want shoes. Some had shoes, some had none. Some had ripped up shoes. Plus the children not only suffer from severe injuries, but they also suffer from lack of clothing, lack of water, lack of food, lack of basic life resources. Those children, all they wanted was just new pair of shoes. That's all they asked for, was a new pair of shoes. While our kids over here asking for iPhones and PlayStation 5s. They just want shoes, $2 shoes.
Yeah, so on the children, UNICEF has put out a statement saying every single Palestinian child in Gaza has experienced trauma at this point. Every single one, 100%. And as a man of science, we don't ever get 100% of anything. Like, you never get 100%. You never say this medicine is going to work 100%. But for them to say every single 100% of children have experienced trauma should be a shock to all of our conscience.
Yeah, so just showing more pictures of people living on the hospital ground or around the hospital. The picture in the left upper corner is actually a school, a UNICEF school, that was turned into a refugee camp. Same situation. In each classroom there were like tens of people staying. The picture in the right lower corner, that's right next to the hospital, around 2-minute walk from the hospital. You can see the tents that people established for their as a refugee camp. That piece of land that used to be a wheat, used to plant wheat there. Next to that is the graveyard, and the people were saying it's called Dagga graveyard. They started the first grave, they dug that grave 2 months before we arrived there. And by the time we were there, it was already full. The graveyard was completely full. And you can see the living, the tents are right next to the graveyard. It's as if they are waiting for their turn to join them. And it was just part of their life, became part of their routine. And while people are living here, every single day, we stayed there for 14 days, while people are staying every single day, you would hear ground shaking bombs that rain on Gaza, that they would shake the hospital walls while we were sleeping over there. And that was just part of their daily suffering.
So with this picture, it just shows the lack of supplies that the children have there, that some of them have taken out their talents with a piece of paper and a pencil and drawn some very beautiful drawings here. And some others are just sitting out playing with whatever is, could be dirt, dirty water, no shoes. Sometimes they didn't have any parents because they were either displaced or they were unalive. So it was very heartbreaking to see the children just being out in the streets with nothing, no school, no activities. Also, this picture of the 2 little kids carrying whatever dish that was, like beans and something. That was what was available for them to eat. And if you see these 2 little kids, I was walking behind them, and they were carrying this to take to their mom. I asked them, "Where's your dad?" They said their father's was unalive, and it was just them and their mother. And it was very heartbreaking to see children have responsibilities of adults and not enjoying their childhood. This is also a picture of a child that I took that caught my attention. You see he's trying to blow a balloon. He has no upper extremity limbs and no lower extremity limbs. Trying to just be a kid while there was bombs going around in the background, and I didn't know where his mom was or where his parents were. I just tried to get in touch with his mom, and I couldn't find his mother for like the whole time I was there.
You know, as I mentioned earlier, there was no school system, there's no educational system. So these kids had nowhere to go other than I brought some coloring books and crayons with me. So we did some activities with them just to keep them busy. And these pictures were taken around the hospital. Most and every one of those children, as I said, they either suffered from massive injuries or they just suffered from psychological, mental issues. And we try to keep them busy as much as we could. You know, not as just a medical professional, but as a parent, I would really appreciate if everyone would really get involved and raise awareness with us. And we're just trying to show you photos here, but we had to experience this firsthand. So I'm just sharing some of my experience with you and asking you guys to get involved, please.
This is a picture of So this is a child along with 82 other kids that I was able to get a tent and have some teachers there help them to learn so they're not in the streets playing and not getting any education. So that was one of the kids, he was reading Quran.
Now, I want to comment on this drawing. Does this drawing remind you of any picture that you know of? You were able to capture this. It was drawn by one of the kids. She's drawing a mother who's holding her baby coffin after he left as a martyr. They don't use the word died there. They don't use the word killed. They use the word murdered. So her kid was murdered, and she's hugging him as he's flying to, And the reason why this drawing caught my attention, it was independently drawn by this kid, and at the same time, the other picture was chosen as the WordPress picture of the year. Also a mom hugging her kid, her baby, after he was killed by war machine. So you can see how the connection.
Just to pause from the presentation, if there's any support staff who could bring a plug-in to plug in the laptop, because we're going to lose power here in just a second. If anybody can help plug in the laptop, that'd be great.
This is Rafib. This was one of the kids that was transferred to European hospital from the Shifa hospital. He was transported initially to Shifa with his sister Rafib, which is 14 years old. They've lost their parents, and as you see in the picture, he's malnourished. He was in the hospital for 14 days with no food and no water, and then transferred over to a European hospital where we were staying.
So as a ICU physician, and I know a lot of the people on the panel will agree with this, it might sound juvenile, but I will like hammer into my residents that what is the patient's nutritional status? Because whatever injury you have, whatever surgery I do to you, I don't heal the surgery incision. Your body heals the incision, but your body heals the incision when you have nutrition. And what I saw in Gaza was ICU nurses blending rice and putting it down tubes into NG tubes for patients because they didn't have tube feeds. They didn't here, if I have a patient, I'll just say put them on some nutrition, some tube feeds. They didn't have it. So they would blend rice and pour it down just to give them something, if they had that.
Yeah, so just to share some stories about our workplaces. So Muhammad, I think, worked in the OR and in the ICU. Rana was running around as a wound. She established the wound team. Amani was a physical therapist, and she was also working with, she can talk about her experience. And Dr. Saeed Ahmed Walid was in the OR mainly. So
During my time in the ICU, here in Florida, in Gainesville, I take care of adults. I take care of 60-year-old, 7-year-old, 30-year-old. You know, that's what I'm used to. I'm used to working with patients with all the resources that we have over here, and I do love my job. So I went there expecting that I'll deal with, you know, middle-aged men who are, you know, traumatized by this. But instead, the ICU over there was around 26 to 30 beds. More than 50% of the patients every single day were actually children. And not any children. One bed, you'll have Khalid, who was 4 or 5-year-old with explosive injury. Next to him was another kid with 40% body burn. Next to him was a 7-year-old with head shot. Someone shot her in the head. Next to him was another kid who was shot randomly by a drone called a quadcopter that wanders around and shoots people randomly. Next to him was another kid with a complication of diabetes because he didn't have insulin. They didn't have electricity in their tents. So there's no insulin. So they come to the hospital with too much acid in their system. Next to him was a pregnant woman with hepatitis A because there's no sanitation, there's no sewage. You know, during my career here for 10 years, I've never seen hepatitis A. Over there in 2 weeks, I saw 5 cases of acute liver failure because of hepatitis A. So most of our patients were actually women and children because of, either because of trauma or because of lack of resources. I know Walid, maybe you want to comment on that picture? The one on the right side. Yeah,
So basically, when we're talking about injuries, when we see those injuries in the trauma room, under normal circumstances in the United States of America here, where we have all the amenities and all the supplies available, we have a protocol that we have to follow when we see a trauma case, in which case the patient undergoes a sequence of events or interventions to make sure that the patient is stable, and most of the time the patient will go to the operating room for surgical intervention, especially with severe trauma. Sadly though, those kind of injuries that we could see in the picture over there is a result of explosive injuries or war-zone injuries, if you wish. Those injuries can be very, very tricky in a way that if the patient or the injured individual falls into the epicenter of the explosion. Now imagine we are here about 100 people sitting here. Let's say there's a propane tank that just went off here in the middle of this hallway, God forbid. Believe it or not, people will die. Now imagine a rocket or an explosive that is highly sophisticated falls on the heads of a group of people who are occupying a small area. A rocket that is made by a very evil, power of some kind. Imagine the magnitude of injuries that will result from this kind of explosion. So when we get those kind of injuries, basically we're getting blast injuries where at the epicenter there's an immediate loss of life. People don't make it that much when they fall into the epicenter of the explosion. If they're lucky, they may lose an arm or a leg, or somebody may get just completely decapitated, or their ears and eardrums blow out, lungs blow out, and their head just explodes. This is the nature of those kind of injuries. This patient over there that you see in the picture has multiple injuries all over his body. And this is characteristic of shrapnel injuries, where there's an explosion that takes place and the shrapnels scatter and just injure as many parts, as many people and as much part of the body as it could. As a result of this, you're getting those kind of injuries that you see. The problem with those injuries is that those shrapnels pass through some dirt and get implanted into the tissues of the injured individual. This created or creates what could be called an infection, immediate infection in the site of the impact. Those injuries are very hard to be treated because of how they're spread, also because of the associated blood loss that takes place with those injuries, because of the dysfunction of the organs of the body. And when you have all those parameters combined and you have a lack of resources, like what I described at the beginning when we say that we, here in the United States, we follow a certain protocol. We don't have any of those protocols over there. We just manage the case as it happens, and you don't have anything to manage the case with except very small supplies, and you have to do what you can do just to keep the patient alive until further notice.
So this is just a picture of the emergency room, and I'll tell you, I think if you're not in medicine, you typically have the, like, in your imagination, you think like a trauma surgeon is usually in the emergency room, and it's not the case. I try to avoid going to the emergency room. I don't go down there when there's a dying patient that I need to take to the operating room, which is where I like to spend my time. But when I first got to the European Gaza hospital, I will tell you, I was scared to go to the emergency room. I was actually scared. For about 2 to 3 days, I avoided the emergency room because in general, the emergency room is like chaotic, even in the United States. Like you have a lot of people, you gotta figure out who's dying, who's living, who do you need to see immediately, and who can wait. So that's in this context. In that context, the entirety of the hospital was like that. Like literally when I would walk from the operating room to the ICU, and you saw the videos of people on both sides, everybody is sick, everybody is injured. So they would stop you and grab you. The families would just grab your arm because they see that you're a doctor, you're a medical professional, and they're like trying to get some ounce of hope. And I mean, I don't blame them. Imagine all of you are sitting next to somebody you love right now. If that person was really injured, wouldn't you do the same? Wouldn't you do the same if somebody walked by you and you thought, maybe this person can help my mom, my sister, my brother, whatever? Wouldn't you do the same? But for the providers, it gets exhausting because they're literally just trying to walk from the ICU to the operating room to go take care of a patient. And that simple walk, you're going to be stopped by 7, 8, 9 families who need you. And they all need you. And there's only one of you. So what is that like? And then on top of that, in the ICU, again, I'm an ICU physician, so in the ICU, we had no space. All the ICU beds were full. And so what happens is it's like a business, right? If you have something that's stuck, the operation doesn't move forward. And so it backs into the ER. And so the ER now is a complete disaster. I mean, there are hundreds of patients. And I would see patients like this. These are not my pictures, but I would see patients like this. It's distinctly coming back to me now, a patient who was a blast injury, he had multiple fractures of his ribs, he had a broken pelvis, he had a broken arm, and I examined him on the floor like this. And this patient needed to be in the ICU, and I could do nothing. I could do nothing for him. And that's the system. Again, for me, I'm like talking to you about this now, and I was only there for 2 weeks. I feel like an idiot. I feel like a weak person because I was there for 2 weeks. What about the people, what about my brothers and sisters who are ICU doctors who have been there for 7 months? There is nothing left behind their eyes. When I got there, there was nothing left, but they still are showing up to work.
This is a 4-year-old. Her name is Alia. And the person in the back of the ambulance is her dad. Wasim was working for 24 hours over there. The nurses worked for about 24 hours. His day off was on Friday to go home to see his wife and child. And it was Friday morning, and I was walking into the emergency room, and I asked Wasim, "What are you doing here? It's supposed to be your day off." And he just stood there silent, and he informed me that his wife was severely injured and she's in ICU. And his one and only daughter, Alia, is in that black bag. And this is him saying his goodbyes to her. And we had to transfer her via ambulance to bury her. And I was there with him. It was a very sad moment. It was very heartbreaking. This is his one and only child. He was married for about 10 years, and that was his one and only child. And he was just, saying the goodbyes.
So the next picture, just for everybody, it's very graphic. So I will tell you if you're not into this, if you can't handle it, just maybe not want to look.
So painful. When we look at this picture, this is very, very undescribable, uncomprehendable. It is so painful and it reflects pain. This patient arrived to the emergency room still alive with what we call agonal breathing. He was still breathing, but he was obviously badly injured. He was at probably an epicenter of some explosion, and you see that thing in the middle of his chest, which is a large shrapnel in the middle, and you have his arm. You can see his arm gone. You could see other part of his body missing. This is basically the type of injuries that we were experiencing over there. And now we were there for 2 weeks. People have been experiencing this for 7 and more months since this tragedy started. As people are experiencing this on a daily basis, they can't find any treatment. They can't, this kind of injury is just very catastrophic. It's beyond human imagination. Now, with that being said, let's move on.
Can I comment real quick on the picture? Is that okay?
Go ahead.
So, I know the picture has a lot of shock value, and I know if you are not a person who deals with traumatic injuries before, maybe it's really hard to see that picture. But again, a lot of us on this panel we deal with this all the time here. So this picture does not shock me. I have seen things like people suffering. I think I want to help the audience push past the shock value of the picture and understand what it's like to not be able to react. So when you see this, if I see this in my trauma bay now, I'm prepared to deal with this. I will immediately, like a symphony, start shouting at my team, do this, do this, do this, and we can react. I think what I want to impress upon you all is, what is it like when you cannot react? What does that do to you as a person when you can't react? When you know, like the trucks that we showed a video of, that thousands of trucks are sitting there 15 minutes away that could help you in this situation. And the world is silent and not letting you do that. I don't care what color you are. Every single person, if they saw that patient, they're gonna wanna help. I don't care what God you pray to, I really don't care. That's the point. That's the destructive nature of this. Sorry, I just had to say.
Sorry, thank you. Looking a little bit to a little bit of a brighter side over there. One of the major issues in Gaza during the crisis is the lack of specialized clinical or care. Basically, we have traumas, and traumas. Anybody with a little bit of bad tonsils or appendix isn't going to get no treatment during that time because, there are higher priorities and there's only few operating rooms functional and few doctors, few surgeons, few anesthesia personnel. So you have to kind of focus on other priorities. One of the cases that we had was this case, which was a case for a patient who had severe heart or cardiac disease. This patient had what we call severe coronary artery disease. His arteries to the heart were clogged, and he had a very slim chance to live. And his chance basically was either slim or none. And we decided that we just have to do something about it. The problem and the challenging issue is that, again, this is a cardiac surgery which entails a lot of steps, a lot of preparation, a lot of supplies, a lot of medications, a lot of insurance. Those things were not necessarily available to us. When you add some, for example, flickering electricity going on in the operating room off and on while the patient is on a what we call the heart-lung machine. Now, the heart-lung machine, for those who are not familiar with it, is just a device that just kind of takes over the heart function during the actual cardiac manipulation and repair. And if it stops working, basically, there's no life. So, as I remember during that case, there were like 2 incidents where the power went off for a few seconds and then came back right away. But there was this one incident during the case where for about 15 seconds, there was no power. Now, 15 seconds with no power, you are in the middle of a hospital, in an operating room that is in the middle of a tunnel somewhere in the hospital. Well, let's not use the word tunnel because it kind of excites some, just drop that word. Just somewhere in the hospital. Everything turned dark, black. And 15 seconds for you will be like 15 years. Because you look at the patient, you can't see anything. I reach for my light source. I reach for my phone. I look in there. There's barely anything to see. Now 15 seconds again pass by. And then the power comes back and you look and you just rely on your instincts, clinical instincts. We did not have good pumps during that time, and we were just relying on instinct. I was looking at the patient and just looking at, mixing drugs without knowing the actual concentration, because I'm not able to, and I don't have the amenities to do so. And I've been doing this all my life. Almost 22, 23 years, I have been doing the same thing, working with hard cases. Yet, I didn't have the amenities to do that. And I remember, we didn't have even lab work on the patient to find out what's going on with his status. And I remember vividly, Dr. Mary, who was the cardiac surgeon in that case, he would look at me in the middle of the surgery and he would ask me, Waleed, do you have a blood gas? And I would say, Gamal, we don't have a blood gas machine at this moment. Keep going. He would start operating. 10 minutes later, he would look at me and say, Waleed, did we get that blood gas back? And I would, Gamal, we do not have any labs. Keep going. Miraculously, with the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this patient made it to the shore safely. And we took him to the ICU where he spent about a few days over there. And then miraculously, with the praise of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he made it out of the ICU and he's functional right now, alhamdulillah.
So Muhammad touched base on the ICU physicians that have been there for 7 months. Well, so in the ICU, we were working with residents, just anesthesia residents. We didn't have any attendings there. And those residents, they work in groups. So they do 24 hours, then they take 2 days break, and then they come back again. And the reason why they do that, because they have other things to take care of, wherever they are taking refuge, they need water, they need clean water. So it's a process to get water. They need to charge whatever power banks they have or whatever phones they have. It takes hours to charge your phone, to find a charge station somewhere to do that. They need to provide for their, so a lot of these residents that were working with us were actually refugees from the north. I remember Dr. Abu Rus, his father was bombed at the beginning of the war, and yet he was still showing to work. Another neurosurgery resident, his fiancé was killed at the beginning of the war, and he was still coming to work, operating on patients. Another, Dr. Amjad, he was a refugee from the Indonesian hospital. And when he tells you the story how the Indonesian hospital was invaded, and he was, among the survivors from that invasion, and yet he was still showing up to work at the European hospital. Half of the residents there were actually refugees from the north, and they were working with no salary. They got a quarter of their salary twice in 7 months. So basically they were living on whatever aid, whatever they're able to get from these. There are mass groups that distribute food. Sometimes they get their food from there and so on. But they decide to go to work every day. So you can see here, this is another example of the Shifa Hospital. The Shifa Hospital used to be like the Harvard of the US. That's for Gaza. It's like a 750 beds, highly specialized, had interventional radiology, all sorts of specialties before the genocide started. When they invaded the Shifa Hospital, they leveled it to the ground completely. The second invasion. The first invasion, they didn't do that. The second invasion, they burned everything with no clear justification. And I was working with residents who were actually refugees. They trained at the Shifa Hospital. They used to work at the Shifa Hospital, but now they are refugees at the European hospital. Yeah, so you can see here, I just from all these 3 pictures, I want you to pay attention to the picture that's hung on the wall over there, in the right, this corner, the top right, the picture, you can see that picture hung on the wall. So I couldn't but ask, who's this guy? Why do you guys have this picture there? They said he's our colleague. He was our senior anesthesia resident. His name is Dr. Tamer. He was bombed with all of his family. Every single person was murdered, except for his 3-year-old. Her name is Tara. She was found 20 meters away from the bombing, and she's staying with some distant relatives right now. That's just an example of the horrific terrors that these healthcare workers are exposed to, and yet they still show up to work because they feel that that's their duty.
It's a bit ironic. This was completely not planned. We didn't talk about this, but in that same room, one day I had one of my ICU physician colleagues. He came in that day and he was a little bit happy. But the whole time I saw him there, he was not smiling. But that day he was a little bit happy. He was like smiling. And we did our rounds in the ICU, and then he got a phone call, stepped out, and when he came back in, his face had changed. And I said, well, hey, what's going on? What's wrong? He said, my house was bombed and my cousin just died. I have to go. Same exact room.
It's not. You see this picture right here? That's Dr. Mark. He was an orthopedic surgeon that was with us on the trip, and that's an head of orthopedic doctor. His name is Tamid. Tamid was at the Shifa Hospital and was shot in his left leg. He needed surgery. He told me the story. This happened November 16. November 17, he was taken to jail. And he lost his eye. He was there for 45 days, and he lost his eye. You see in the picture. And then he was displaced and thrown on the border, and with a fractured leg and no eye, he couldn't walk to go back to his family. So he told me he crawled about 4 miles till he got to where he needed to be and had to call somebody to come pick him up.
So this is during iftar time, or just around the iftar time. We are over there, you just heard 2 explosions. And this is typical, this is the timing when people get bombed, iftar. And for those brothers and sisters who are not Muslims, iftar time is the time when after people are fasting, they just kind of gather to have a bite and break their fasting. This was a typical timing for which people would get bombed, beside the time that is just before the dawn prayer, when people are just gathering, like families are gathered together in a place or in a tent or something of that nature, and they just get a bomb over their head.
And so, you know, this bombing was routine every single day. The scary thing is, whenever these bombs rain on the ground, they literally shake the walls of the hospital. Like it was, you know, like a nightly thing where we are sleeping, all of a sudden the walls start shaking. Or we are praying, all of a sudden the walls start shaking. And these are the results of these bombs. I got the chance to take a tour in Rafah city, which is the city, by the way, at that time, it was the city, the least bombed city. But yet we saw all of this destruction inside Rafah. You know, towers that were leveled, houses that were demolished, mosque after mosque after mosque that were directly targeted, churches that were destroyed. It was just I can't describe what I saw there. And when you see all the refugees that were displaced, the streets that were packed with refugees, and they were still, despite all of this, they would still reside there. And they say, this is our land, we either live or die here. And while we were taking this tour, we saw these 2 pictures. One of them says this is by the USA. So these bombs, a lot of them are funded by our tax dollars. The other rubble says, beneath this rubble lies Umar and Osama, 2 children that they died there. They couldn't excavate it. They don't have the equipment. So they said they just lie there, let them lie in peace over there.
70% of bombs dropped in Gaza are U.S. manufactured. 70%.
I would like to, before I comment on this slide, I would like to mention 2 things that really touched my heart and just broke me in pieces. And I have to say that when I arrived to the hospital, the first thing that I saw over there was just that a lot of kids were just gathering around you and just kind of trying to, you know, call you and say hello and ask you for things. But one of the kids was about maybe 7 years of age, approached me, and he was kind of serious looking. What is going on with this kid? Everybody's like smiling, laughing, and trying to play or snatch something like in a playful way, but this kid was very serious, and he asked me, "Can I ask you a question?" And I said, "Yes, you can ask me." He said, "Are you gonna be mad?" And I said, "No, I will not be mad, baby, just ask me." And he came close to me and he whispered in my ear and he said, "Why did you leave us?" I'm talking about a 7 years old kid saying, "Why did you leave us?" And he's talking to me as a representative of the free world, supposedly. Or maybe somebody who speaks Arabic and he kind of felt disappointed. Now, this is a 7 years old kid who had those kind of emotions. Imagine what kind of mentality you're dealing with. The other thing is, when I saw those two kids who were probably also 7 years of age, and I have to say that because of their height, I figured maybe they are 7 or 6 years of age. I thought those kids were twins. And the reason why I thought that was the case is because they were identical. identical in everything. So they're twins. Obviously, I assumed that this was the case, but they were identical because they don't have eyes, they didn't have ears, they didn't have a nose, and they didn't have a face. So they looked like a flat creature, just walking, still with life. They were not injured freshly, they were injured for quite some time, and their injuries in their face just made them disfigured completely. So you can't identify any anatomical structure in their face. They just didn't have any face. When you look at the twin and the beautiful twin in the picture, this is when you recognize the difference between this and that. Ladies and gentlemen, we've been dealing with a good amount of talking for a very, very long time, actually for decades. And we were always looking and hearing lessons and preaches about the so-called democracy. And I have to say that behind the facade of the so-called democracy of the civilized world, there's something that lurks behind that. There's a troubling undercurrent of cruelty, inhumanity, and immorality. This is not based on a theory that we're making. It's based on objective evidence. We've seen this. We were there. So we know it happened. We saw the pain in people's eyes. We saw the suffer. We saw the killing. We saw the blood. So this is no theory now. Over decades, the Western media have been straight out biased to support the cause of an apartheid regime, while ignoring and downplaying the legitimate rights of an oppressed nation that had a right to exist and live. The media was so functional in the Western societies by imbalanced reporting or language bias or context omission or selective coverage of things, labeling bias, normalization of occupation that has been going on for decades. And these critiques adopted by the Western media for decades have smeared the reality and served to confuse people. This was a function of the media and the West in general in skewing the views, skewing and playing with the reality a little bit. Ladies and gentlemen, those in our government who supported a barbaric regime to massacre thousands of innocent civilians, children, women, and displace more than 1 million people from their homes in an unprecedented exodus in the recent era, are in no moral position to promote for democracy. They should never preach to us about morality because they have none. They should be embarrassed of how evil they were, trying to hide behind a fake moral veneer, just became uncovered. We have been witnessing a fully organized crime against mankind, a crime called genocide. Let's face it, it's called genocide. No matter how you try to change the wording or to justify things. If it smells like a genocide, looks like a genocide, it's a genocide. And if you try to sugarcoat it, it's not going to be a brownie. And I'm not talking about genocide. You know that analogy. October 7th, 2023. Now, loss of innocent lives of children, women, elderly, or any civilian life is something that we are completely against. We completely condemn the loss of civilian innocent lives, no matter what the background of those lives are. You know, we don't care about their religion. We don't care about their ethnicity. We care that they are human beings, and any loss of civilian life is something that we are against. But we should never be dragged by any means to change the face of history and put it into one day and one date called October 7, 2023. We should never be dragged into that. If you want to drag us into that October 7, 2023, let's talk about it. But before we talk about it, let's talk about the history. 75 years from Deir Yassin massacre. 75 years from Abu Shusha massacre. 70 years from Kibya massacre. 67 years from Kafr Qasim massacre. 67 years from Khan Yunis massacre. 41 years from Sabra Shatila massacre. 33 years from Al-Aqsa massacre. The list is so long, and if I keep going, it won't end. So let's not change the face of history and reset everything to this day.
So, in case anybody in the room doesn't know, October 6th was the deadliest year for Palestinians in 10 years. But was anybody talking about this issue on October 6th? Was there any news coverage on October 6th? Zero. October 6th.
Now, I would like to ask you, brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, to just look at this picture with a little bit of analysis, a little bit of thinking. And this picture kind of reflects the nature of the nature of evil, of what it means, and how it harms, and what the intentions are. This picture is obviously saying, one shot, 2 kills. Showing a picture of a pregnant, apparently Muslim lady, because she's wearing hijab, and she's pregnant, and the picture is just advocating shooting one person but killing 2 people. That just tells you, this is an eye-opener, that just tells you about the mentality. How sickening this thing is. This is what this is. Now, this is even embarrassing. When we as the democratic nation here, when everybody in the Congress and the Senate and keep promoting for justice, democracy, yet 12 of the Republican congressmen sent this letter to the ICC, the International Criminal Court, threatening them, boldly threatening them, telling them, if you do this, we're gonna do this. A straight out threat. You can Google that, it's all over the place, it's not a hidden secret. Everybody knows about it. So when our Congress people who are supposedly representing our hopes make that kind of comment and rhetoric, that kind of tells you what kind of morality are we talking about from those people.
So just wrapping up, I think we have 2 more slides left. You can see this child looking at this bottle of water with Dr. Mark Perlmutter, just to emphasize that
regardless of the religion, the ethnicity, the background. Dr. Mark Perlmutter, he comes from a Jewish background, and he was with us. And he actually sent letters to every single congressman advocating for a ceasefire. He was walking to the OR with this bottle of water to supply him throughout the day. And this kid's eyes are not on him, it's on his clean water. When we were washing our faces in the bathroom there, the water is salty. The water was salty. So having a clean water is something that is a privilege. I just wanted we just wanted to finish with this picture, just to show that the kids over there are fighting for survival.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to end my statement here with this. About almost 40 years ago, I chose an academic pathway to become a physician. In my mind back then, my goal wasn't fame or money, but because I wanted to help. It was all about helping people. This is how it was in my mind. I wanted to ease their pain and make their lives better. As a physician, I've seen a lot of suffering. This is the nature of what we do. We treat suffering. We deal with suffering. But I've also seen the joy that comes when I would help relieving that suffering. There's a huge difference between the two cases. Today, we came here, all of us, to share with you something that made us question the idea of the so-called civilized world. It is an experience that shook us and million others to our core. In simple terms, we came here to talk about the importance of kindness and fairness. We are here to remind ourselves that we're all human beings and we need to treat each other with respect and compassion. As we witness the devastating impact of conflict and humanitarian crisis in Gaza, it is crucial that we come together to make a difference. Listening to the news and just shaking our heads in despair and sadness ain't gonna do much. But we have to make a change. We can start by donating to a reputable organization, providing vital aid, speaking out. If you don't want to donate, speak out. Don't shy out. Don't shy out of speaking out. Spread the word. Let the whole world around you know. Look at those kids in colleges. We should be proud of those kids. Let's all say no to barbarism in all its forms. Let's all remember that every small action counts, and collection efforts can bring about significant positive change. Let's unite to promote compassion, empathy, and kindness. And finally, let's work towards creating a more just and equitable world for all. Thank you all, and God bless you.
Thank you, everybody. I think we're gonna have time for questions. Yeah. So we'll take questions from the audience, but before we do, I'm actually gonna take the privilege of being the moderator, and I'll be the first one to ask a question of my co-panelists. And I wanted to ask you guys to think back into your time in Gaza, and just tell me, what do you think is the most beautiful thing you witnessed? And whoever wants to start.
honestly, the most beautiful thing I witnessed is when I did activities with the children, and it felt so rewarding. I had the pleasure to look into their eyes and how happy they were when I gave them candy, when I did coloring with them, when I gave them shoes, when I gave them clothes, even when I gave them a small amount of money. That to me felt very rewarding. Honestly, I can never replace that with anything else. The other rewarding thing that I would really love to share is the wound care team that I created in Gaza. That actually was the best thing that really happened to me. Seeing the children, how happy they are, and the wound care team and how much it delivered to the hospital and the wounded patients.
The whole experience was very heartwarming, just to see how the people there are very kind-hearted, very giving, and they're very generous also. So one of the things, during Ramadan, we would all gather during iftar time, try to eat, and they would take whatever they got from whatever that was available to them, and each would share and make something and come try to feed us before they would eat. If they had water, they had access to water, they would come and they would offer that to us before they would drink. They were just so kind-hearted and very genuine people.
This is the most beautiful thing I have experienced over here. The state of Palestine. This is what it says. I was proud to be somebody who carried a passport with this stamp on it. This was the most rewarding thing.
To me, it felt like a healing trip to myself. It gave me a new meaning to life. You actually see the truth of life. We stress out about things here all the time, but in the big picture of things, when you see the value of water, the value of coffee, the value of simple things that we take for granted here, you just start seeing life from a different perspective. That maybe I need to worry about something different, something bigger.
I'll tell you guys, I was doing a lot of writing when I was in Gaza. Almost every single day I would stay awake in my old mattress and write. And I remember I wrote one line that was, as a team, we gave them everything we had. I mean, our scrubs, our shoes when we left, we gave them our bags, we gave them our shirts. I mean, can you imagine I'm not trying to be gross, but we literally gave them our underwear. Because that's how much people needed stuff. We gave them everything. And we felt like we changed nothing. They had nothing, and they gave us everything. So, questions from the audience? If you guys want to line up here, if you guys have questions, and then if you are asking the specific panelist, let them know, or if you want everybody, it doesn't matter, just keep it open.
It's hard to speak. In your request for us to speak, I should know his answer after years and years of trying to speak on issues. Where would you suggest we speak first?
Thank you, sir. Thank you. The channels of expression of opinion, fortunately nowadays with the spread out of internet and social media, is one of the easiest ways of expressing opinion. And
And when you express something by putting something, we're not putting anything hateful or anything like that, but we're just demonstrating to the world what is happening. And we share it with our colleagues, and we ask our colleagues to share our posts. That's one of the things that we could always start with. We can talk to our representatives. We can send emails. We can talk to our kids in school who go to school because they have a very loud voice. And what we have witnessed in the last month or so is beyond imagination.
I would also point out that the City Council and the Commissioners Council, they do allow for public hearings, so you can just go there and speak up your mind for 2 minutes, 3 minutes. You can share what you've heard today.
I'm gonna say, basically, say Palestine. Every chance you get, every opportunity you have, say Palestine. And I'm gonna tie this to an issue. I'm gonna tie this to multiple other issues because it's analogous to a lot of other issues around women's empowerment, around minorities. I am a Palestinian, so if I speak about Palestine, someone can discredit me by saying, oh, you're Palestinian, of course you're gonna speak about Palestine. But if I, as a man who is successful or whatever label you want to put on that, stands up and says, I have nothing to gain by speaking up for women, by speaking up for the plight of women, by speaking up for the plight of a black person, I have nothing to gain from that myself. Sadly, it adds credibility. It's a problem that does, but sadly it does. So specifically, if you're not Palestinian, you should say Palestine. I have written the White House. I can show you on my phone the response I got back, quoting the number of people that were killed on October 7th, with no number of the Palestinians that were killed. I have written my local congressman. I've had this conversation with everybody that I can. So that's the answer, is say Palestine.
I know there are healthcare practitioners in this room and many more who will be seeing the video of this recording, hopefully if it's been recorded. And so my question is, when are you going back and how can these other healthcare practitioners join you for the next trip?
There's many organizations that are, of course, accepting healthcare professionals to go. Unfortunately, right now, due to the border being closed, no one is entering as a healthcare provider. Hopefully, when the doors open again, you can sign up with PAMA, you can sign up with Gaza, you can sign up with a lot of other organizations, but we traveled with PAMA. Healthcare workers here, again, you can speak up to your representatives, sign up, send to the congressman, just raise awareness at your healthcare facilities. That's another way that you can help out. I have accepted donations of medical medical supplies when I traveled previously. I accepted a lot of medications and medical supplies to take with me. So that's another way healthcare providers can be involved.
Yeah, so I did sign up through Society of Critical Care Medicine with the collaboration with PAMA. So PAMA, every once in a while, they do send out links for healthcare professionals to sign up and show interest.
Next question.
Thank you so much for sharing these stories and this. Thank you so much for sharing the stories that with your trip to Gaza. Your trip was to the southern side of Gaza, so I don't know if we can even imagine how things are going on the northern part of Gaza. My question is, can you please shed a light a little more on the moment you crossed the border from Egypt to Gaza, and what's stopping all these drug aids from entering Gaza?
Sadly speaking, there are logistic issues that are initiated by the Egyptian government. And I'm embarrassed to say that, being a native of Egypt. But I believe anybody who got a hand in preventing any aid to enter Gaza is complicit in this genocide. We had a lineup of trucks that we just showed you over there that have been staying there for a very, very long time to enter. And as Dr. Bashar just mentioned, one of the drivers was saying 40 days waiting for his truck to enter Gaza. This is nothing because there is some war at the border or anything like that back then, obviously. But it was just because they're allowing a certain number of trucks to get in, which is way less than the normal allocations for those trucks to get into Gaza. That's one issue. The other issue is nothing gets done without the blessing of the Egyptian authorities and the other side of the equation, which is the side of the oppressor. They have to bless everything. And I think they're just cooperating in making things worse. I believe that humbly. This is just my opinion. They're just cooperating in making things terrible for the people of Gaza.
Now regarding our crossing, so we first arrived at the Rafah border, the Egyptian side of the Rafah border. We had to unload, so we were 12 physicians, we had 180 bags with us, loaded with supplies. So we had to unload them. They searched every single bag. So it took us like several hours, at least 7 or 8 hours to go across the border. Few hours, maybe 3-4 hours to go across the border. And then we had to load them again to the truck. And then the truck drove for another 100 meters. We had to unload again and get them through the luggage belt on the Palestinian side. On the Palestinian side, there was a civilian authority that was taking care of the border control. Things were smooth there. The only thing is, it was around sunset, and we were rushing things because there was a deconflicting order that we had to get for our truck to go from the border to the European hospital. So if we miss that deconflicting order, which is like, expires at 8 p.m., then our truck can be susceptible to being bombed, basically. So that's why we're trying to rush things up so that we can make it to the hospital as soon as possible.
With that being said, even though that there is a deconflicting order in cooperation between the WHO and the oppressor, yet people were bombarded, even though they got deconflicted order in place to move a convoy from point A to point B, yet still they get bombed sometimes.
Thanks for coming, guys. The question was asked, what can we do? I just want people to know that I'm with an organization called Partners for Palestine. We have members here in this area of the state, Florida, the villages, you name it. And I would say we're probably the most active group across the state of Florida. Our activism, writing letters, making phone calls, and all that kind of stuff. We have a sign-up sheet outside if anybody would like to join our group. A couple members of the team here are going to be in Orlando on Friday. And if you know anybody in Orlando that would like to come in, please let us know on the way out the door. Also, Alicia is in the back. She's representing CARE. If you want to sign up with her organization too, has some really positive things you guys can do to help. Because we have to leave here with something to do, not just listen to these horrible things, but we have to act.
Thank you for your service. I just want to say thanks.
I have something that may sound irrelevant, but I just want to ask everybody to watch a specific documentary. And the reason why I'm bringing it up is because though alhamdulillah, a lot of people are now aware of what's happening and a lot of people are sympathetic with what's going on in Palestine. But we have to also understand that a lot of people are not. And this particular documentary that goes back and talks about 9/11 and what happened there, there are no Muslims in it. It's a very boring documentary, but I would encourage everybody to either watch it. It's long, and I don't know if you're going to be still able to find it because it's kind of hard hard to find out right now where it is on the internet. But watch it and encourage others to watch it because it kind of sheds light to some very important things that will make people question who's behind what happened. It's called 9/11, 10 Years of Deception. 9/11, 10 Years of Deception.
Hello? Assalamu alaikum. I just want to start off by saying thank you. You were very courageous, and I wish I had an ounce of the courage that you had. So thank you very much for what you did. I have two questions. What is your experience with the Zannana? What is your experience with the Zannana? Like the copter that goes around there? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you. We can hear you.
And the second question is that I work in the lab, and I wanted to know about how do you get valid lab results in a situation like in Gaza? I'm not accustomed to war zone hospital.
So regarding the first question, so I want everyone to imagine yourself trying to go to sleep, and then all of a sudden around 9 p.m. every single night, this drone that's called Zannana, it goes silent during the day, and then around 9 p.m. they just turn on the volume, so it goes just keeps humming in the sky. It's creating this very, very loud noise, sort of psychological warfare that disrupts you. We as physicians for the first few days, we were having a difficult time just start sleeping, with that loud noise, and some of us were using earplugs. But then after that, as I said, as the Palestinians get desensitized to it, we got desensitized to that as well. Regarding your second question, in the ICU, as Dr. Said Ahmed said, we got an iStat machine, which is a small lab machine. Unfortunately, the cartridges were confiscated at the airport. So we were treating patients with diabetes and diabetic ketoacidosis, with sepsis, with all sorts of medical and surgical problems, with no labs, or at best you get like a chemistry once a day. But we didn't have any blood gases, we didn't have CBC, you get it every other day or so. So it was just using your clinical sense. We're just using clinical sense and you treat based on that.
I have a recording of the Zannana for you if you want to listen to it.
I also want to comment. Comment about what you said at the beginning. You said we are all courageous, and I understand I understand why you would say that. I'd probably be saying the same thing if I was in an audience like this. But it's very important for people to understand it's not us. Like, we are literally just, you can forget my name, it's just we are the voices of the people who are not able to sit here because of the powers that exist in the world. The people who show up for work for 7 months, they are the courageous ones. You gotta redirect all of that to the healthcare workers who are there, who cannot get out. I always knew that I had a US passport, and I walked under a United Nations escort out of Gaza, as all of us did, some of us twice. That is something that I know people would give up limbs for right now in Gaza. And they are the courageous ones, so that has to be channeled appropriately. Regarding the Zannana, I want to say just the guy that we were working with there, when we got there, it was my first time in a war zone, and he would say, that's the sound. It's interesting, because I am like an easy, like pampered Western man, right? And so I got there, and I was like hearing this, and he would tell me, he's like, oh, he would hear the different sounds, and he's like, oh, that's a quadcopter. Oh, that's a F-16. Oh, that's a Zannana. Oh, he would name them just by the sound. And he would actually say, he would say, we Gazans say, if you hear an F-16, you're safe. Because if you heard it, you would have already basically been killed by it. And that stuck with me. I don't know why.
Brothers and sisters, I just want to take a minute from the heart to thank you, brothers and sisters, for what you guys doing. Dr. Walid, you mentioned a very dear word to my heart. It's a dream. Still have a few years in my life. I would like to see it, inshallah, with God willing. You mentioned the this is a optional question if you want to answer. If you don't want to answer, I know it's far away from the subject, but you mentioned that a lot of rallies, protests, and all this stuff didn't do nothing good for us. And you guys, in my eyes, are way better than this Hukam al-Arab. You guys did amazing that no one had the courage to do it. May Allah bless you and bless your families. So the question is, you know, and they know, and everyone in this room now, there's a lot of division in our communities, in our countries, and in our ummah. And you mentioned the word unity. What is your advice? Give me some good idea from your brothers and sisters. Because we look at this, we point the finger of these evil people who did a lot of evil things in our, for our people, but we forgot that three fingers are pointing to us. What is the way for unity?
Thank you so much for your question, appreciate it. We've been suffering from a lack of unity from the beginning of time, and this is what made things worse. In my humble opinion, I strongly believe that unity starts by people, not by governments. If we wait for our governments to make us unite, when I say governments, I'm not talking about the governments here in the United States, but I'm talking about the governments abroad. Most of us may have dual citizenship or came from a different country, and the fact of the matter is we need that voice to keep going. We need to ask each other to be close. We need to unite. We just need to unite. When you say how, in fact, I don't know how we unite, but we just have to take a step, and we just have to get close to each other, visit with each other, sit down with each other, whether in masjids or in libraries, or we just have to make something happen. The sad thing is, over the years, we've been just hearing talks and talks and talks, but there are no actions. And I believe we need to step up and do something about it. Maybe Brother Abdullah can give us a little feedback on that part as far as unity. Is Brother Abdullah here?
Let's say that I'll comment on it towards the end.
Oh, okay, all right, thank you.
Take other questions, thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. I'm sure that while you spent your time in Gaza, you witnessed countless instances of loss almost every day. How did you personally deal with seeing all of it?
I mean, like here in the United States, in the medical ICU, we do see death on a daily basis. So the heart of a physician is different a little bit than the heart of a non-healthcare worker. I claim so. Nonetheless, the amount of destruction and suffering and death that we saw there is undescribable. But what helped me the most is whenever I see an anesthesia resident next to me, he lost his father, another one lost his fiancé, another one lost two brothers, another one his house was bombed. And they still show up to work with no crying, with no shake feeling. They just come with resilience and perseverance. They give you that feeling that nothing in this world can stop you. You need to keep going. I didn't choose any of this. I didn't choose the calamities. I didn't choose the occupation. I didn't choose a lot of the things that we see in the world. But I can choose one thing: what I say, what I believe, what can I do? What can I do about it? So every one of us should take a stance and just say, I want to do something about this. Whatever it is, just from your position, you can do something. At least one thing.
Hi, my name is Alicia Couturiers. As Bob said earlier, I'm with CARE Florida. I'm the outreach manager. First, I want to thank the panelists. Whether you're there for 2 hours, 2 weeks, or 2 months, the work that you're doing is incredible. So I first want to thank you for the work that you've been doing in Gaza. and bless you because you're going there not only saving lives, but you're putting yourself at risk. And that's very commendable, so thank you. And also I want to thank everybody that came out tonight. I know that we're all very busy and we have family obligations, so for you to come out this evening and spend 2 hours with us to educate yourself on what's happening, I would just want to say I appreciate that. And that is recognized. But a lot of people have asked what you can do. I just want to reiterate how we can make a difference here in the state of Florida. A couple of people have said, speaking out. That's extremely, extremely important. We encourage you to speak to your elected officials. Even if you're not sure where they stand on the issue. I myself have been in the offices with elected officials, and some of them, they don't necessarily take a side, but they simply don't know what is happening. And for most of the people in the room, we probably understand that what happened on October 7th was not the beginning of something, but a reaction to something. And I think that that's very important to educate our elected officials on, because then they can make better informed decisions on what and who we're supporting and where our tax dollars are going. So I want to, again, encourage everyone to speak to their elected officials. Like Bob said, the organization Partners for Palestine is doing that around the state. And also CARE Florida, we can assist you as well. If this is something that you're not familiar with or you don't know how to do and you need guidance on that, we are here as a resource for you. We can give you talking points. We can help you set up those meetings, and we can actually attend those with you if you want that extra support. So please, at the outside, there's a sign-up sheet for Partners for Palestine. In the back here, there's a sign-up sheet for CARE Florida. I encourage you all to sign up and let us assist you in making those conversations with your elected officials, because if they're not willing to be on the right side of history, we can vote them out and put somebody else that will.
Hi, I have 2 questions for you. Okay, I have 2 questions for you as medical professionals. So I just graduated, and like many, I wanted to be a physician, right? Because 50 years ago, the U.S. fought Vietnam too. But almost every single university, every single North American medical research institution has investments in war profiteering or directly researches with weapons manufacturers, and of course, tuition for medical school is much, much more significant than undergrad, right? That's more blood on our hands. And so how can young people like me reconcile our good intentions to become doctors for humanity when medical education here demands we be indebted to the military-industrial complex? And then the second question, there is deafening silence from every single medical association on this genocide. So when you go back to the U.S. hospitals and you mentioned your residents, right? Do you feel any hostility towards you? Like, how do you speak truth to power in the face of colleagues who are complicit and who have sold their humanity for a doctor's 6-figure salary? Thank you so much.
So I'm going to answer your first question because it's something that I struggled with myself personally. It's something I feel very strongly about. So I don't play checkers, I play chess. And in this game, as a person who is a medical student, you are just by nature of the system, disempowered. The best thing you can do for the system is to get to my position where you are an attending physician that runs a program at a big university. I right now am here on my own free will, and I can say whatever I want freely, and I don't have I'm not immune to the system, but I don't have as much consequences as someone who is a medical student. So as a medical student, the best thing you can do is become an attending. The second best thing you can do is get a coalition of people. So that's what's happening across universities all over the country and all over the world, is it's much harder to take somebody down if they're in a group of people advocating for something just. And I don't know, I assume the majority of people in the room consider themselves Americans. I consider myself an American. And we have to look at our own history. And it makes me crazy when I'm thinking about this situation. If everybody in this room has not read Martin Luther King's letter from the Birmingham jail, it should be a required reading. Because what he says in that is the most dangerous thing to humanity and democracy is people's, basically, people's commitment to order instead of commitment to justice. And all of the students in the university encampments, this is what they're screaming at the top of their lungs. And it's much harder to fight against that because they have a lot of people together. And so if you want an outlet for your voice, you need to do that in a group of like-minded individuals that are at your level. If you cannot do that, then you just need to become an attending. Because once you become an attending, you have a lot more power.
The second question, I just have a comment on it. You mentioned something about what we are exposed to in the hospitals as we practice. And as a matter of fact, believe it or not, even if we try not to believe in it, we live in a very socially and racially polarized environment. We do. And, we've heard all about the stories against minorities in this very democratic country we live in. We happen to be doctors in hospitals that have different population of different racial backgrounds. And we happen to be the minorities. So I can't tell you how many, and I've been an attending for 22 years. I've been in practice for 22 years. I've been in control for 22 years. Yet, I'm hearing some slur every now and then. I get some comments. Some people start making, pretend that they're making jokes. You're listening, you're in the doctor's lounge and you see some people watching the whatever Fox News or anything like that, making some comments about issues, using some language against Arabs or Muslims or this or that. I've heard that. I've taken some actions in the past. People were held accountable for their actions in the past, but it keeps happening every now and then. As Dr. Mala said, a coalition is obviously a very strong thing to establish, but this will not erase or make the problem disappear. It's the problem with the community that we live in, that is a community that unfortunately and sadly biased towards certain minorities.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Actually, I would like to let you know that we are really, really proud of your team, your work, your sacrifice, and your organizations too. Thank you. I have two questions for you. We give advice to everybody, and when we come to our families, our kids, we give special advice. After coming back from your trip, what was your special advice to your kids? The second question is, after coming back, how you see the future of Gaza? Thank you.
The best advice that I gave to my children when I came back was to be grateful. Be grateful to the food you have on your table. Be grateful to the shoes that you're wearing. Be grateful to the cars that you're driving. Be grateful to everything you own and have. Be grateful that you have parents. Be grateful that you have education. Be grateful that you have jobs. Be grateful that you have a bed and you have a shower and you have a bathroom of your own to use. Just be grateful to everything you have, basically. That's the best advice I have.
So one of the things that my close family members, my wife, my kids know about me is that I'm a very picky eater. I'm a little, very selective of what I eat and how I eat it, and just grew up like that. When I came back from Gaza, I was a different person. I was never like somebody who would eat or share food with somebody else on the same plate. Never. This will be like on my dead body.
Even me, he does not.
But ever since I came back, because over there, we were sharing food with everybody. Everybody was eating from the same plate. We were eating rice, and we were eating chicken, pieces of chicken, and it was the best meals that we ever had in our lives. And we were all sharing it. We were all sharing it. And I came back with that feeling that I'm not going to be picky anymore. I'm going to eat everything. And whatever gets put in front of me on my plate, I'm eating it. I'm inhaling it. Even if 5 people are sharing with me on the same plate. So.
Well, I have some good news for you from Tampa. And the good news is that we have a radio show hosted by a Palestinian and an Egyptian. The Egyptian is not Palestinian. They've been volunteering on this radio show for over 17 years. The Palestinian does not live in Tampa. The Palestinian lives in Punta Gorda, over 100 miles. And these two are volunteers. And I wonder how many of you have heard of them here. That's not enough, because they have been subsidized, if you wish, by we, the people. And they have been threatened by the oppressors. They have been threatened every year, and yet when it comes for a donation, they usually do better than any other program. So that's the good news. And if you want to know, you can listen to them. They have a podcast and the radio station, and you can get them across the country. Is WMNF 88.5 FM. And so I think, yes, go ahead. Yes, the radio station here is WMN as in Nancy, F as in Frank, and they are on the podcast, and it's 88.5 FM, and they appear once a week on a Thursday for 1 hour from 12 noon to 1. And this is a way of supporting the station, not only the station, but supporting what the people need to know about Palestine. And also, well, now my age is coming up, and I forgot what I was going to tell you. But anyway, this is the good news.
We got a question about whether or not we will go back. Well, if I have the chance, I would love to stay there. But for technical, family, children reason, I think every one of us will try to go back eventually. I think Dr. Saeed Ahmed is trying to go back in October. Rana was trying to go back sooner than that. And unfortunately, right now the border is closed. But inshallah, once the border opens up, there are missions scheduled for May, June, July, and August. And the healthcare system over there will need a lot of rebuilding. That's why I encourage every single person here to support Palestinian American Medical Association. They do have envelopes outside. Please support this organization. I've witnessed firsthand what they do to the healthcare system there, and they are working day and night to help rebuild and help work with the locals there.
I would love to go back, but my mom, who's sitting right here in the red, won't let me. So if you guys can help me convince her, that would be great.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Your action and heroic services are greatly appreciated. I am an internal medicine doctor here in Florida for 25 years, and I'd like to demonstrate and tell you about a very simple devices I have, but have a lot of passion and help in the disaster and war zones. So please, if you want to hear and help me deliver those devices to Gaza, will be appreciated. Thank you.
So can I ask a huge favor, please, everybody? There's a person here in this gathering who I haven't seen in almost 30-something years. He happened to be in my same batch, and he happened to be one of my best friends. And I have to go downstairs to hug him and give him my best regards. Dr. Muhammad Shahood.
I just want to obviously say thank you for the work that you did, but also coming here and educating us. For a lot of us, we would never know unless people like you come back and tell us. One of the questions I have is just logistically, I'm trying to wrap my head around one of you bringing 30 bags of luggage with you. How does that work? And if you go through Egypt, like, do they go through your, like, you go through their security, their customs? Are you allowed to bring anything? Are they searching through stuff? Do the pressers limit what you can bring in? Just trying to understand how do you keep track of 30 bags? Is it one person, your whole team? Just trying to understand that.
Have you seen Rena's arms? She's like a beast. She's really, really strong.
Okay, so that was me. I'm the 30 bags person. So I did take 15 bags from the US, but the additional 15 bags were from Egypt. And it was the help of the community here, which is really like thank you to a lot of people. They're probably here in this room who donated, like I said, medical supplies, kids' shoes, adult shoes, scrubs. There's a young lady who's actually not here today. I really wanted to give her a shout out, who made the watermelon keychains, and she's iYarnit. She sells them at Etsy. She donated medical scrubs. She was donating the money that she was making out of the keychains, and that's just one of many people. But I did leave the US with 15 bags, and I took 15 more from Egypt because I didn't want to pay for the excess luggage.
Can you bring in any?
So yeah, I mean they do search. So I got 16 bags. I had a team of pharmacists prepare them in Jordan. So I passed in Jordan. I got the bags with my friend, and then we leave to Egypt. At Jordan airport, we had a lot of trouble. But after 3.5 hours of discussions and talking and searching, and we were able to pass through. In Egypt, things were smooth, but one of our colleagues, he's a surgeon, some of his bags were confiscated for no clear reason. They just decided to confiscate these bags. So it's hit or miss a lot of the time. At the Rafah border, things were, because most of the stuff that we had is medical supplies, food, clothes, crops, etc. So they do get searched, but it's just time. It's just time after that they pass through.
I have another question, Assalamu alaikum. Do we have other doctors from different states or different, like from Europe, from North America, Canada, or just from United States?
We had physicians from all over the world. We had physicians who were, Norwegian. There was a couple of, there was a team from the United Kingdom. And these physicians were affiliated with different organizations, not necessarily with PAMA, but PAMA did have physicians from also the US, Egypt, Jordan, give or take.
Canada?
Canada.
The question is coming from Canada, so I'm just wondering about Canada.
Yes, there were, I think there was a Canadian physician.
Thank you, sister. Appreciate it. So outside here we have a little booth with different flyers and stuff like that from PAMA, from CARE, from SEMSA, from partners from where? From Palestine. So all the organizations that we have right here at this moment have their flyers outside where people can contribute. Again, thank you for your analogy that this is not a religious thing, it's not a Muslim, Christian, or anything, it's a human being thing, and we can't just watch what's happening just because these people don't belong to our same religion or same culture, or they're still human beings that everybody has to step in and help. Thank you so much.
There's something very beautiful about doing surgery. When you cut through the skin, everybody looks the same on the inside.
Ladies and gentlemen, I know we spoke about the radio show. It's called True Talk. It so happens that we have an amazing American Egyptian who is also the host of the show here. So I'll let him speak about the show.
Yeah, I'm here in person. I didn't know. What is your name? Oh yeah, Har from Margaret. Thank you so much for listening to the show and promoting it. It has been on for 17 years. We're speaking about Palestine all the time. And since October 7th, we're dedicating every show towards for Gaza because we have to wake people up. What's happening there is a genocide. Everybody that's silent is complicit, but more and more people are learning about it. We have to use our voice, appreciate, and we're so proud of the delegation that went there, that risked their lives to do the good work. Everybody has to do it. Everybody has a calling. Everybody has a calling, everybody has a skill, everybody has a voice, everybody has a role to play to eliminate and end this genocide and oppression. Each one of us knows what that is. You have to identify it and you have to follow it. Some of us can write, some of us can speak on TV, some of us can go to Tallahassee, some of us can protest, some of us can do the encampments, but all of us have to do our role. If we don't do that role, then we're doing a disservice and we're partly complicit in what's happening, and God will ask us on that day. You saw the injustice. You saw the genocide. This is not World War II. This is not the Holocaust. This is now. What did you do? We saw the airman in Washington, D.C. that put himself on fire to make a statement, and he said something very profound. He said, many people asked themselves, I wonder what I would have done when so-and-so was happening during that time. Well, we don't have to wonder. We're doing it right now. The genocide is happening now. We don't have to wonder. The panel that's up there today, they have their calling and they did their part. We all have to ask ourselves, what's our part? This is not something that's going to be solved by CARE alone or Abdullah Jaber or the leaders. Everybody has to play their role. And we see how committed the other side is with their disinformation, with their smears, with their lies, because it takes so much to cover up a genocide. And unfortunately, in the public opinion right now, they think they're winning. And they definitely are winning in Congress. But time will tell. If we rise up, we speak out, and we don't stay silent, they can't keep it on much longer. And eventually the people in Palestine will be liberated and they will be free. And that does not mean we call for the elimination of the Jewish people. This has nothing to do with Jewish people. We love our Jewish brothers and sisters. They're standing together with us and they're fighting against this genocide. This has to deal with the apartheid and with the genocide enablers and with these warmongers that are killing other people. This has to do with murder and justice. It doesn't have to do with anything. What we hate, we do hate. We hate the injustice, we hate the murder, we hate the genocide, and we're proud of that. We love our Jewish brothers and sisters, so don't let them try to spin anything to say otherwise. Thank you.
So inshallah, I know it's Maghrib time, it's prayer time as well, and I just wanted to take the opportunity to comment on what Dr. Sayyid Ahmed had mentioned about unity. I think right now, in front of the entire world, not only in front of America, in front of the entire world, the best display of unity is in every single college campus. You have students from every single walk of life, look completely different, with blue hair, with purple hair, whatever hair, from every single walk of life, protesting. And let me say this as someone who studied in South Africa for about 8 years. South Africa, one of the main signs of the downfall of the South African apartheid was the fact when students forced their universities to divest. Allahu Akbar. That was one of the main signs. That was one of the main signs. And right now in America, about 80% of our black students, of Latino students, of white students, 80% of young people in America under the age of 35 are sympathetic towards the Palestinian people. They stand against the genocide. That's an entire generation. So the question is not if, when the Congress will change, it's when. That's it. Now going back to unity does not mean conformity. I can stand with a Christian, a Jewish, a non-faith, someone else from a different walk of life and fight for a cause. That's what they're displaying. That with our variety, with our differences, we can still come together and end a genocide. Do you know, I was in Boca Raton. It's really interesting what's happening. We had one successful call for, not ceasefire, in Doral. Doral is in South, a small city in South Florida. They didn't, the city council would not agree to call for a ceasefire. So they changed the language and they said, we want to end all hostilities. That's something anybody with any humanity within them says, I agree with that. Because we believe as Muslims, you can say, I want peace for Jews and Muslims, Arabs and Palestinians and innocent Israelis in one sentence. You can say that. And wanting peace for Palestinians and innocent Israelis and Jews, that does not make you an anti-Semite. Criticizing the Israeli government does not make you an anti-Semite. Ask a Muslim who's praying. Our faith dictates that we pray for Christians and Jews at the end of our salah, end of our prayer. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad, kama sallaita ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim. The family of Abraham. That's the faith of the Muslim. So don't let people use anti-Semitism to stop you. City of Doral, they passed a resolution. I want you to think about influence now. They passed a resolution saying that we want to see the end of all hostilities. The next day, they're grabbed by their ears and the mayor comes out and says, we were naive to say that. We don't know how we could say that. But forget the city of Doral. You have the US Congress that's going against basic human ethics, going against historical facts, going against what history has taught us. So it really begs the question, is what you and I, what we are standing for more noble or a foreign lobbying entity within America? And by the way, if your call is something noble, you don't need $1 billion lobby. You only need a lobby that works day in, day out, when what you gotta sell isn't selling. It's not worth selling. People are not gonna buy it. It's immoral, it's unethical, it's evil. It's supremacist in nature. That's when you need a lobby. If I come and say, hey, I want to protect my Jewish brothers and sisters and my Christian brothers, I want to protect everyone, I don't need a lobby to say that. But your movement, what you have been doing, has exposed the Zionist lobby. They were operating behind, because a lobby by nature is supposed to operate behind closed doors, but they can't do that anymore. They're exposed. Decades of investment, of downgrading the global south, downgrading the people of color, and all of that is exposed. So unity is very important, but unity in goal. Unity in goal. Second thing, you have to talk to your loved ones. You have to talk to people. Social media is there. I'm going to comment on social media because what we're dealing with, but you got to talk to people, your circle. People that you think they know, they don't know. They don't know. You have to bring awareness to what's happening, but then you also have to talk to educate. You have to educate them. You know, we get interviewed quite a lot at CARE. One of the most common things that we do with reporters, they're sincere, but when they come to take a story from us, what we realize is they have no idea what's happening. So when I tell them that, do you realize that sending billions of dollars to the Zionist entity does not end homelessness in America. Still, we have one out of 4 children still going to sleep hungry in America. That our veterans can't afford healthcare in America. That we have public transportation problems in America. That the school to prison pipeline is still growing in America. That the people of color are still suffering in America. When you talk to them and you bring awareness, then they realize that there is no benefit for our nation in investing in war. So then it begs, who does it benefit? If it's not benefiting the people of America, it's not benefiting America, then who does it benefit? And that is a key point that majority of people don't know. And that's important. Now when it comes to advocacy, brothers and sisters, you have to advocate. Let me tell you, if you're not registered to vote, what are you doing? What are we doing? You have to register to vote. That's another way. Some of us, mashallah, especially the Muslims, we have a big family. Mashallah. Right? We have big families. You go to your family, anybody that's above the age of 18, get them registered to vote. Get them registered. Do you realize that sometimes a mayor can be chosen by 2 digits? 2 digits, maybe 3 digits, but 2 digits could do it. Elections are won between local, maybe 2 to 3%. Maybe a little bit higher. That means if you're in a church, your church congregation could change your local elections. If you're in a synagogue, if you're in a temple, if you're in a mosque, you could change your local elections. And let me tell you another thing. And this is, I know we're talking about who to vote for, but let me tell you this. You got to accept the reality. American foreign policy is not changing in the next 4 years. That's the reality. Regardless of which way the election goes, the next 4 years are going to be hard. The next 4 years are going to be hard. Okay? But what you can do is instead of focusing only on the federal elections, which does not affect you and your family and your community day to day, your city election is important. That's where one vote yields a lot more power and a lot more influence. That's when you matter. So you have to really stop thinking about who's up there. Focus on your city elections, your county commission, your state representative, your state senator. Those are important, more important, I should say. And that's where the numbers, ask Miss Yvette. We have Madam President, I want to give her a shout out. The president of NAACP is in the house. Can we give her a hand, please? And dear friend and dear sister, ask her the importance of voting. And the sad thing is the majority of our community is not voting, especially in local elections. We did a survey. It took us about a year to complete the survey. We had more than 2,000 people take the survey from the Panhandle to the Keys, Muslims, and it showed that 36% of Muslims who are registered to vote in their local elections. 36%! Imagine if we could just increase that to 50%. We can change things. So registering to vote and actually voting. The second thing is engaging with your officials. Ask Alicia, whether it's here, city, county, state, or in DC. Unfortunately, opposition has people going all the time, in the ears of our officials, telling them one side. And that side, when it's compared to your side and what you have to say, it's easily discerned what's right, what's wrong. But you know what the problem is? We're not talking enough to our elected officials. That is your lobbying power. That is your lobbying power. And as my brother said, Dr. Bashar mentioned, that you can go to your city council and you can just comment. We can help you draft your comments and you can go respectfully convey your message. And you can do it every day. There are warriors in local city councils who go and voice the issues of the community every single council meeting. May Allah reward them. But our community as minorities, we have to connect. The Muslim community in its diversity with black, Latino, white, Arab, and so forth and so on, our issues are no different than the Christian family issues. And our issues are no different than the Jewish family issues. Our issues are no different than the black community, the Latino. It's all the same. We have to connect and unite, and that is unity. I want to give one disclaimer. It's not legal advice. If you have questions, you can definitely contact Care Florida. When you talk about social media advocacy, I want to say this because we get a lot of issues and it's easily preventable. If you work for a private company, not government, which majority of us, if you work for a private company, please keep in mind that political speech is not protected in private spheres. So that means if I work for a private company and I say something, right? Let's just say I say, Haitians suck. Let's just say, I just say that. Haitians suck. Well, just like, my employer would look into me and say, why did you say that? Same thing, if you say Israel, whatever, you could be called by HR, right? Because political speech is not protected in private spheres. If you have more questions, you can call Care Florida. But there is a way to bypass that. You just create another account. Don't put your whole family face, your dog, your address, your birth. Don't do that. You can create an alias account and you still feed the algorithm. You get my point? You create an alias account and you still feed the algorithm. So if you're in fear because of your profession that you can create a dummy account and you can still help the algorithm. Because you know what the algorithm is not designed to do? It can suppress 1, 1,000, 2,000, 100,000, a million, but when billions are using a hashtag, it can't suppress it. It's not designed to suppress. It's designed to promote. So when it comes to advocacy, brothers and sisters, unity, there's so much, as my brother Ahmed was saying, there's so much that me and you have to do. And one of the best display of unity is on college campuses. Our children are doing it. And that is one of the greatest signs of the downfall of this pariah state that has been not only killing and murdering, but draining even the resources that are so vital to the minorities here in the United States. Can we give them a standing ovation, please? Can I get a standing ovation? We hope you enjoy the rest of the evening. For folks who want to pray, we'll pray right now, inshallah. And if our beloved panel, if you have any questions or if you have any, closing remarks, please feel free. Again, thank you all so much. Assalamu alaikum. Please do sign up. And I encourage you that if you want to financially support, please in the back, I think Brother Fadi or someone has envelopes you can financially support. If you want to sign up so you can speak to your local elected officials, you can sign up and Care Florida can help with that. The Partners for Palestine can help with that as well.
Thank you all.